Let's take a second. Let's see yet. Are we? Do you see it on YouTube yet?
Yeah, just
okay. There it is. I see it now. Great, perfect. And oh no, it's good. Get that live. Great. All right, here we are live, and things are started up. So now we're here live. Thanks for joining us, Robert. I really appreciate it. We haven't met before, so I'm going to be learning about you. You're going to be learning at me. I think we've talked a little bit through the externship, but why don't you introduce yourself to everyone who will be watching now and in the future, and then maybe tell a little bit about your story and what brought you to this conversation.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, JD. My name is Robert Walls. I am currently in the late life, I guess, career changing. I keep hearing that big statement, but currently doing the career changing. I'm back in school, doing the education portion for the CFP board. I've done the externship. That's where I got to know JD last summer, and we'll get to how that started. Yeah.
Sure.
But my career has been 34 years in the skilled trades, primarily industrial automation. It's a little different than what you hear about the welders, the plumbers, the electricians, but it is, we call it here in South Texas, and I am in Texas, been in Texas all my life. But in South Texas, we call it instrumentation technology. It's basically, we get into the refineries, petrochemicals. We do the maintenance on equipment that controls the processes, whether it's pressure, temperature, level, any control systems. So we maintain those instruments. So I started at that 34 years ago, went to trade school in 1990. And right out of trade school was hired to move to South Texas. I'm from North Texas, but I moved to South Texas. I worked for that company for 24 years. And they offered a tremendous amount of opportunities for me. I spent 4 years as the technician doing the actual maintenance, then went into supervision, right on up into maintenance, spent time in HR. The beautiful thing about that, JD, is that company paid for my education, so my four-year degree. So my four-year degree was in management, primarily HR management. And I guess throughout that whole time, I was able to be on the state board advisory committee for various trade school colleges throughout the state of Texas. And I also taught the automation, the industrial automation at a local college here for about 22 years. So I've been heavily involved in the trades, been in on a lot of the recruitment campaigns, trying to get some of the trades folks to come down to South Texas to work in this industry down here. Then right after, let's see, in 2016, after the 24th year there, and I just graduated with my bachelor's degree because I had numerous mentors and they were great to me. The boss said, "Hey, if you'll get your 4-year degree, we have other opportunities a little higher up than the management." And I said, "Great." And as soon as, 2 months prior to graduation, the facility closed down, shut the doors, 1,500 people without a job. So here we are. So I went, from that point, I went into just teaching full time at the local college, and then hired on again with a petrochemical plant, also located down here. Spent 8 years with them, and during that time, got my MBA. So I got my master's degree with the second company. So the whole moral of that, JD, is free college all the way through. I only had to pay.
That's amazing.
Only had to pay for the trade school, and from that point on, the companies took care of it. And they were very good to us. And then last June, the company I'd been with for 8 years, and I've only been with 2 companies throughout the whole trade. So this last company I'd been with for 8 years, and they went through a financial strain, and they laid off 400 of us. So
Wow.
last June, which was perfect timing, JD, I just decided, when I was going through the MBA program, they offered an elective of personal finance, and that's where it was taught by a CFP, and he got me interested in the financial planning part of it, and also I didn't realize how ignorant I'd been, of financial plans throughout my whole career. So that kind of motivated me to continue on the path. So I signed up for the externship. Another shout out to Hannah Moore. Got to meet JD, and then from that point, this is where I am now. So since June, I've been into the college trying to get the education part of the CFP, and that's it. Unemployed at the moment, but living off of that, what they taught us, the 9 to 12 month
Yep.
emergency
That's right.
fund.
Yeah, your emergency fund. That's what it's for
So,
taking you and letting you have some opportunities. You got a 3-month opportunity. It's long enough to look for a job. You got 9 to 12 months. It's long enough to look for a career.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference.
And that worked out for us. So the motivation now, in one of the things I'll tell you about the skills trades, in every college, and again, I've been on the advisory board of several colleges, none of them teach these young folks anything about the personal finance.
That's
So they're
insane.
18 years old. They're going into college. At 20 years, 20 years old, they get out. In our particular field, they have a 98. One of the colleges, the big ones there in Waco, they have a 98% placement rate. I mean, it's incredible. And even they're at a point now, if they don't place you, they give you your tuition back.
Wow.
So I thought,
Amazing.
and that's how confident they are.
Mhm.
And they get them placed, and these young folks are coming out. The last ones that I recall hiring, they came out of the college, and they're starting out at 130 to 200,000 a year, just starting out. So you can imagine a 20-year-old with that money in his pocket, right?
It's blown immediately.
Yeah. And in Texas, what's he going to do? It's the big truck. Here we go.
Of course. Yep. You get the F-150 all tricked out with all the
Exactly.
good stuff on
Yeah.
it, make you feel good about yourself. Yeah.
So then it's the girlfriend, and get all the toys, and
Yeah.
and
It's
no
the-
one
here
is-
in LA, it's the convertible. So it's,
Well-
same thing, different. Either the top of your car is gone or the back of your car is gone. You know what I mean? But somehow new money doesn't like roofs. You know what I mean? They don't want anything covering them up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and so I thought, if there's a way, if I can get credentialed, through the certified financial board, and somehow get into these colleges, or get in, and just even to teach a class, and it can be basic, because none of them you can talk to them, because they're only taught the skills in these schools.
Right.
So when they come out, there's no one that really knows the 401k system, how it really works, what they can,
Oh, yeah.
what their involvement is in it, the taxing, and especially cash management. I mean, it's, know nothing about that in even the emergency fund, because these companies, they'll do well, and then all of a sudden they're in a big cycle and they're laying people off. So, be ready for it, and then go get your toys and do whatever you want to play with. But
Yeah, once you're there,
yeah,
for sure.
exactly. So, and I don't blame them. I mean, they come out and there's the most money they've ever seen. So, but if there's a way to, reach out to them and say, hey, let's slow down. Because yourself in any industry, when you go in there, then all of the experts that are in the skills trade, they're all investment experts. They're going to tell them what to do with their money. And so I thought, one of the things, if I can do, and I can help these young folks, if there's a way to get the word out to them financially, hey, it's okay to do all those things you want to do, but let's get a plan together, and let's work through that plan. So
That's
that's where I'm currently at. That's kind of my whole backstory. It was kind of quick. And if your audience has any questions just about that little short conversation,
well, hopefully they post them in the chat if they have any. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Sometimes we get some good questions. Sometimes people are shy. What are you going to do? So I just want to pick your brain a little bit about going to the trades.
Okay.
Because I'm talking to a bunch of anytime I talk to a group of 20 somethings, right? Or 18 to 20 somethings, kind of that early 20s, late teens. A good number of them are like, what's the point, right? Of going to school? What's the point? It was like 5 years ago, you'd say, go to a programming boot camp and you'll get a job immediately. Right. And that's what was happening. People were just doing that coding boot camp and then go getting jobs. And now that doesn't that's not a thing anymore, really, for a lot of them. They're looking at that like, now I don't know that I believe that, but that's their opinion. Right. And a lot of them are saying, I don't want to go to college. Forget it. And they've, I'm sure, been on the internet, which is full of all the articles like, you don't want to go to college, do the skilled trades. It's super easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which,
Sure.
I also don't believe. But as I've talked to them, I know I went and searched. I'm like, oh, there's plenty of people who are college, like you could hire a college counselor. If I'm a parent and I have a kid who's 20 and they're like, hey, I want to go to college, or 18, they're getting out of school. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to hook you up with this college coach or job coach. And they're going to help you figure out what school to go to, what you want to major in, how to get a job after college. They'll help you get a job after college. And it's like, there's these people who you can pay to do this. If you're not going to college, I couldn't find a single one in the whole country. Right. I found a few. There's like a few things that are like Degree Freeway, and there's a few like kind of programs, but they're all like group programs, right? They're like, yeah, come join us, do the worksheet, and then it will help you figure it out. But it's not this kind of one-on-one coaching that I feel like a lot of kids need. And like, quite honestly, like my background isn't in trades. What do I know? Right. I did theater a little bit in high school or whatever. So I can I understand a little bit about electricity, but like, that's it. Like I'm lost when it comes to these kind of, the unions and how do you get in and like, how do you talk to people and what even are all the trades, right? Like, is there a list or is there not a list? Right. So I talk to them and I'm like, I don't know. Sounds cool. Right. It certainly will be automated slower than anything else is going to get automated. So it does provide some career security for you for a while. And
exactly,
you go out in the woods and you want to dig a well, like AI is not going to do that anytime soon. Right. And I can send a robot to your house to dig a well. It's going to be some, crusty dude, with his kid in a pickup truck that's all dirty and covered in mud. Like that's what I want when I want a well. I don't want some random shiny robot. I want some dude who's going to like huck a loogie on the floor or something. I want him to call me kid, even though I'm 52. You know what I mean? That's what I'm looking for. So some questions, right? So let's say you're talking to a group of 20-year-olds, right? They tried a little community college. They're like, yeah, I don't think I want that, right? They haven't decided on trade school because they look at trade school and it's like, in order to go to trade school, like you kind of got to pick the trade that you're interested in first. That's right. Correct. It's not like you walk in, you're like, hey, give me the survey. You don't, unlike college, you can't go in undeclared. Right. They're like, no, you got to take this is the certificate for this. Right. So the first question is like, if you're just like, well, I want to use my hands. I don't really like to write, I don't want all the academic stuff. I just want to kind of get in there. I'm smart. I know math. I can, I'm good. I just don't know what should I do? Right. Okay. I've seen pre-apprentice programs and other things like that. But those seem really more focused on construction compared to like, you're talking about instrumentation and, or, other stuff like that. Like, how could you get as that age, what would you say to these kids? Like, how can you get exposure and actually learn about what all the trades are and which ones might appeal to you?
Well, a couple of things that we do here in Texas is they allow the skills trade. They allow us, and I would take employees with me into the high schools. And we would go over those skills trades, and we would take pipe fitters with us, welders, instrument guys, electricians, and part of those skills trades also down here that people don't realize is nursing. That's a skill that they teach. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. And just from my experience, I was the same way, JD. I was up till 28 years old before I went to trade school because I was just wandering around life. Right. I see. So an older gentleman stopped me and he said, hey, you need to go to get your skill, get it set. And once you have that, saying, hey, I've been in school for this. He said, you're more apt to get hired. So again, I didn't know what skill I want to do. I've done everything. I've done air conditioning. I've done plumbing. But what am I really interested in? I don't know. But here it was, at 28, I'm married, I have kids, I am scrambling, how do I make the best money to provide for them? So what I did, I went to that trade school in Waco. I said, I really don't know what to do. So I wandered up and down the halls looking at job boards. And I found job postings, and I'd write down, and I'd go to every department, and there was laser technology, there was biosciences, there was electricians, and the industrial automation, their job postings, their companies were paying the most coming right out of school.
Okay. So you just picked that way?
That's it.
That's look, that's the best way, I think. Like, okay, well, what's in demand? Who's really paying the bills?
Exactly.
Like, let's go.
And their hourly rate was much more than any of the other trades at the time, and I believe they still are. But that's what influenced me. I said, I'm going to do this, and it was the first couple of semesters.
You're already a financial planner at heart back in the day,
And sure enough, in the 90s, I went through the program, and you're still not sure. You're like, I don't know if this is the right decision or not. I finally, hired right out of school, come right down here, and I'm in the 90s. I'm at $18 to $22 an hour, and I'm thinking this is it. And just like all others, got the money, let's go, let's blow it. Not knowing, hey, I should have had a little plan together. Right. But yeah, that's the way that I selected. Was just strictly based on an hourly rate. But what happened was, once you got into it and started learning, I really became interested in it, and I loved the career the whole time. So, and again, all 34 years was involved with the electrical system, the instrument systems, regardless of, what I did. I just had opportunities to work with other skilled trades, the welders and the mechanics and all that. So it's been a great career. There's no complaints here. Just, I wish I'd have known a little more about the personal financing than I did. Little regret there.
I think you're going to come in and really be able to speak to these people who are doing that. And I think, can change some lives.
And I hope so.
So in the world out there that you see now compared to when you were starting in the 90s, the kind of kids today who are thinking about moving into the trades, is it still the same thing, like go to trade school? Or like, I also have kind of read conflicting things where it's like, hey, just go to the union hall to get on the list, and then they'll put you through school. Like, don't worry about that. They'll tell you when you need to go to class, right? You don't even need to think about it. Right. What's your thought on kind of going through the union, going through the trade school, just going through a non-union, and then kind of getting your feet wet and then joining a union? Like, what's your feeling around all that?
I've worked closely with what they call the IBEW, the International Brothers of Electrical Workers here. In this particular area, and from what I understand, even as far away as New York, the IBEW there, they are very good at bringing on the young folks, putting them through the apprentice program. They spend 4 years in the apprentice program. They go to class at night. They work during the day, and it's labor work for those 4 years. And then you become a journeyman after those 4 years. And then it's up to you after that if you want to become the master electrician or not. But they do support you all the way through that, but you are working, you are making money. It's the lower side of the money, but you're just starting out,
It's better than paying to go to school,
Exactly. It's right? Exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. You talked about the trade school itself, and we did a presentation several years ago with high school students. They were looking at us going, what's the advantage of the skills trade over the 4-year degree? And so we put up a big display and said, listen, and it was true for me. In the 90s, I paid, for those 2 years, I paid right at $8,000, right? For those 2 years. I come out making right at $70,000 for those 2 years. And so some of my friends were still in college. They were paying enormous amount. They were going, Texas Christian was huge money.
Yeah.
and they're still paying it. So here I am at 2 years. I'm making money. They're still in school, right? They still have 2 more years to go. So over that time, I've doubled the money that they've been making because they haven't made any. They're paying it out. I paid back my tuition of $8,000. They'll still be paying for the next 10 years. But over time, we did have to show them that if they were focused on in the engineering discipline, then at about the 10-year mark, they catch you in your wages. They catch up to you.
Right, sure. Yeah, with the degree.
wages.
Or
Right.
they did then. I don't know about now. It's a little different.
Right. And so we just showed them that, hey, short period of time of 2 years, you're making money, you're going.
Mhm.
And so that was a lot of comparison we did as far as going to talk to the high school students. And again, you made that question earlier. What do they want to do? Well, that's the hardest decision to make is,
Right.
what is it you really want to do? There are aspects of every one of the skills that it's really not desirable, but
Sure.
you get past that, get to the money part of it. Hey, you're doing well.
Yeah, once you're a journeyman, you have someone else to do your work for you.
Exactly.
Then you're kind of golden, right?
That's right. That's
for
right.
sure. You got to put that time in. So, I mean, what would you say to someone who, maybe is a little less physically active, but is like wanting to get in the trades? Maybe they have some physical limitations. Maybe they, have muscle issues or something where they're not quite like, oh, I can just carry stuff all day. You know what I mean? They can, maybe a little trouble lifting, maybe a little trouble with certain things. Like, is there a place for people like that in the trades, or is that kind of like, oh yeah, you're gonna have a rough time?
Yeah. Well, again, we mentioned the nursing being the trade, and
Mhm.
and in fact, in my particular trade of industrial automation, it wasn't as physically demanding. I think that's why probably today it's a little harder to not as hard, but harder, I guess, really is what I should say, to
Mhm.
get hired on because there's not much turnover. It's not hard on your body.
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're having these guys working until they're 70,
Mhm.
and beyond.
Because you can, like financial planning. It's like, well, until you're drooling at your desk, you're fine. In fact, the older you get, like, when you have hair color like ours, like you get an advantage, right? People are like, oh, you've been around the block, you know what's up. Even if you don't, there's a bare assumption that,
yeah, they
like,
believe you.
our demographic knows more stuff,
Yeah.
right? And which is wrong and kind of dumb, but like that's the reality that's in our culture. A little less now than it was, 20 years ago, but still, that's the nature of it. So,
And so, you probably have to put some thought into it, just as like you said, the physical limitations. What is it you can do? I mean, most companies they do, make those, I guess, concessions for you if you're physically limited.
yeah.
One of the things that actually in my particular trade, there was a limitation to a good many of them that we didn't know till after you hire them. You got to climb a 100-foot tower. And they're
Oh,
deathly
right.
afraid of heights,
Yeah,
And,
that's a big one.
we probably need to change our interviewing questions when we're talking to these people. Great technicians is just they had a fear of that height that
Interesting.
we didn't
Right,
realize.
that's I hadn't thought about that for like industrial automation. You don't think about like, oh, you're gonna have to go 100 feet up. Like, well, for what? What's automated up there? But obviously, there's plenty of stuff, right? Like,
lot of
you don't
level
think about that.
indications and pressures.
Right.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
assume for like alignment or something, yeah, they're gonna be. There's some that you're like, oh yeah, that's part of the job, and some you just don't even think about it. Like, what?
Exactly.
That's interesting. So a lot of the people who are falling into this idea of joining the trades are doing it because there's some part of the academics that just isn't a fit for them. Maybe they're not that great at math, which is going to push them out of some of the trades. Like if you're not that good at math, maybe don't go be an electrician, right? Because that that might be a little much for you. And some of them are just the idea of writing a 5-paragraph essay is like, nope, I'll die first. Right. Some of them, it's like speaking in public. Like there's no way I'm gonna to do that. So like, are there particular trades? Like if you're bad at writing or you're bad at math or you're bad at just kind of, sales, talking to people, like the kind of charisma skills, you know what I mean? If you're bad at that sort of stuff, like, are there specific trades that you would recommend for like each of those groups?
Yeah, you know, again, electrical you can fit right in. Most trade schools now, some of the one I was talking about in Waco, they are particular about, you know, you do go to speech class, you know, you're heavy in math, you know, and they're making sure that you have all of those before you leave. We have trade schools here in South Texas that accommodate that very thing that you're talking about. You don't get any of that. You know, they're going to teach you exactly the math you need to have, not the whole gamut.
You don't need no calculus. You just need to know the electrical formula. Just memorize this and you'll be fine.
And this is all you need. And they work with them on that. Even the IBEW will do that for them. I mean, they work them through day in and day out, what they're going to see, what they're going to be faced with. And again, they're not faced with the big math calculations and having to do that. So there are numerous opportunities for that. Some schools.
And then what about the ones that are really good at math? Like, I see a lot of the people who would otherwise go be programmers, and instead they're like, well, that's just like, they work you 20 hours a day and don't pay you overtime. If I'm going to work that much, why don't I go to something where I can get paid overtime? So they're very good at math. They're very good at like pattern recognition and building algorithm, that kind of stuff, no problem. Like writing an email, not so much. They're like, I don't want to talk to anyone ever. You know, they're like, what's a good trade for those people who are like the math, you know, almost autistic math whiz kind of folk? Like, where do they best fit in the trades?
And I'll tell you, in industrial electrical and industrial automation, industrial, well, those are about the two, because both of those deal with computerized control and what companies do. And it's just not necessarily that you have to be in this industry. There are companies in Houston, big name companies that we deal with their equipment, that do all the programming, that do all the computer-based stuff. If you have that skill, if you come out of instrumentation school or whatever it is, and you have that skill set for whether it be inputting any controls or programs, they love it. They pick you up right out of Houston. So it's not necessarily that my particular skill was, you have to be in a petrochemical or refinery. You can be all the supporting cast for that, for all the equipment, for everything that goes in there. And even on the electrical systems, a gentleman out of Houston called me and he said, hey, do you know of any kids that need a job that we can help with the on the electrical side? I can't find any. You know, here we are in South Texas. And I said, you know, there are a few, and we've got him hooked up with a few guys, but it's, you know, and they'll do all that. And they do a lot of programming for their control systems, safety systems that they have for these refineries, and they don't work directly in the refinery. So
interesting.
Lots of opportunities, just not necessarily, you know, where I did. That's just where I was in the,
right. Yeah, for sure. Facilities. Of course. So now another question, because I'm in LA. Right. So the groups of kids I'm talking about are super liberal, and they're like, you know, a lot of women, LGBT, like, you know, you have these communities of, you can imagine the people I'm talking to in Los Angeles, right? You're from Texas. I'm sure you have the same stereotypes about California. We have different stereotypes about California than we have about Texas, but, you know, some of them are true. And like the financial planning industry, which is like 75% white men, right? I imagine the stats are probably even, at least from a male perspective, like kind of your typical kind of dude out there. I imagine that's what, like 80-90% of the people in the trades these days?
No, you're probably looking, as far as the demographic goes, you're probably looking 40-50% white, rest are Hispanic.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially down in this area. But
what about like men and between number, like percentage of women in the trades, and like percentage of kind of non-hetero, non-cis, kind of the LGBT community? Like what's that experience like that you've seen from, you know, from your perspective?
For the women's side of it, It may be about 10% that go through the skilled trades. Now, hiring them on in the facilities, and you know this, JD, I've been in situations where, you know, HR says, listen, you know, we have a lady interviewing, you know, see how well we can help her.
Let's get
Yeah.
some numbers up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so it would, and I hope none of this gets you in trouble or anything, JD.
Oh, I don't mind getting in trouble. It's usually my goal.
Yeah. But we would, and I've been in the facilities where we've hired the women. They work out just fine, and they do the job just as good as any men.
Sure, and I believe that, but like, what's their experience like? Is it, you know, the kind of what you would expect, a little bit of like, got to have some thick skin, and or are things a little more chill now than I would imagine they would have been in the 90s?
Well, they're a little chilled, and I'll say this in experience. When I was supervising a crew, I said, "Listen, we have some women that have you know, applied for a job, and it was immediate. Hey, she better have thick skin, you know, just to shut up."
Right.
So I mean, in these days, they were telling me, they said, "Man, we won't be able to talk at all in this shop." I said, "Yes, you will. You just have to be clean about what you say."
Hey, just pretend your grandma's listening, and then you're fine. You know what I mean? Like, you all know how to talk to your grandma. Give me a break.
Exactly. But some of the women were just as rough as they were. So,
well, sure. Yeah. But again, I'm not, you know, I'm not saying it should be one way or another, right?
no,
I'm just,
no, but
you
it's
know,
a
want to be able
mindset.
to them to understand what they're getting into. You know what I
That-
mean? Because it's
that's right.
yeah, you're out there working hard. You want to have a good time and whatever. And sometimes that good time isn't good time for everybody.
Right.
You know,
That's great. And you're on the right path. I mean, your mindset is right. I mean, it's difficult. But
and then what about the LGBT community? Is that pretty rough in general? I mean, it's probably rougher in Texas than it would be in LA, but you know, what's the general vibe?
And I'll tell you, I've not, in 30 plus years, I do not recall an interaction with anyone from that community in the industry. Now, that's my experience, and it doesn't mean
right. Of course, yeah. I mean, you're
place.
in South Texas. That's you know, it has its own vibe, and everywhere you go, it's a little different. Now, obviously, there are people in that community in the trades, but it's interesting that it's really never been, you know, I'm sure you have, you just didn't know, right?
Well,
because they weren't out.
And I'll take that back. You know, in some of the contractors, when we have big outages and they bring contractors in, there you do experience that with a few of the women that come in, and I haven't seen it on the men's side, but a few of the women.
Sure. I think there's a stereotype for that, for sure, you know.
Yeah, and they work hard. I mean, they're good at what they do. So but it's not a big experience that I've had, JD, with that.
Right. So yeah, it might be a little rough depending on where you live in the country, maybe.
I think you're absolutely right.
Right. Now you mentioned free college. Is that pretty common, or is that kind of unique to the companies you were at?
That was pretty common. When the first company I hired on with, when they told me we have educational assistants, they pay 80%. But when I actually started going, they changed that to help with everything. They went 100%. They paid for it all.
Wow. Amazing.
So, and then the second company, they were 90%. They paid 90% of the tuition. So it was, and it's pretty much like that in all the industry down here. If you decide to go to college, they take care of it.
Interesting. So as long as you're at a decent sized company, not just your local electrical shop or whatever, but like if you're working for one of the big people, that's just kind of a typical benefit for their tradespeople. That's amazing. Yes, wow.
So I tell them all. I mean, parents will call me and say, you know, my child doesn't know what to do, and you know, can you talk to them about the trades? Sure. But also, you know, the parents really wanted to go to a 4-year school. And I said, well, that's fine. Get you a trade, get a skill, and we'll help you figure out what that is. And so get a skill. And when you get into these, you know, bigger places, like you said, they'll pay for your college if you just so desire to have a 4-year degree, and even more. So,
yeah.
and the parents are happy with that. So,
Yeah. So you got 2 degrees paid for basically.
Yes,
Sounds
sir.
like.
Got
That's
the
amazing.
MBA. Yeah, the first company did the bachelor's, second company did the MBA. So
That is fascinating. And so that's super cool. So then you went through a couple layoffs, and then you decided to go into financial planning, and that was kind of just you took the class and got the bug, and then did the externship, and then really got the bug
yeah,
because the externship is
absolutely.
rad. So
Yeah.
what was that experience like? Because it's got to be a very different vibe, like hanging out with the financial planners and the externship. Like that's a very different community than the one you
Yeah.
spent 35 years working with, right?
Yeah, where they're spitting on the floor and all that. We
Right.
don't
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
that.
Right. I don't see a lot of people hawking loogies at the Schwab Impact Conference. Like it probably happens, and I'm usually part of the troublemakers in the hallway. You know what I mean? I don't go to the sessions. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm off,
Yeah.
doing the equivalent of smoking cigarettes under the bleachers in high school. You know what I mean? I'm just hanging out with the bad kids, having
See,
to drink
you'd have worked out well with us
but,
down here. Yeah.
what was that like for you? Just kind of coming
It's
in. Obviously, you're a career changer, so you're older than most of them. Like, what was that experience like?
it's very different. I guess the personalities are a lot different. They've been very receptive of me. I mean, it's a great crowd, but it is really different. In what I like about most of them, I haven't run into any bad ones. They're all very supportive, very helpful, willing to answer questions anytime I have one, and I have a million of them all the time. But again, it reflects, of what little I knew about personal finance, trying to catch up now. And these folks in these, whether I chat with them or a visit with the people I got to know from the externship, extremely helpful. And people like yourself. I mean, you were incredible when you set up there and you just say, "Hey, we're open. We'll stay there all day and talk about it." Is remarkable. And most people are like you. So
yeah, it's a very interesting industry. We definitely have more people are willing to share.
Yeah.
And it's so, because I've been in a bunch of different industries, because I was in accounting and finance. So like I've been across the board. I was in marketing, I was in banking, I've done a bunch of stuff and seen a bunch of different industries. And for the most part, industries are pretty cutthroat, right? You have, there's a lot of competition, and you're not going to help your competitor.
Right.
And coming into this industry, it's so just fascinating how much we just share everything. I was in study groups with people at other firms that were down the street from us that we competed with all the time. One time I had a prospect come in, and I asked them, and I typically do, I said, "Hey, have you talked to any other advisors? Because you should talk to at least 3 before you make a decision." And they're like, yeah, I talked to this guy, Bruce, over at Oakwood. And I said, "Oh, Bruce at Oakwood? You should work with him. He's awesome." Right? I don't know why you're talking to me after talking to him. You should have just said yes right then. And the prospect starts cracking up, and said, "You know what's funny? Bruce said the same thing about you."
Perfect.
And that so is just the ethos of this industry,
Right.
not in the wirehouse necessarily, but on the independent RIA side, everyone just wants to help each other, and it's really bizarre.
It really has been, and it's taken me a little bit of getting used to. Like I said, from the industry I come from, it's like you said, in banking and all that, it's pretty cutthroat. Not that the folks aren't just very nice, but you have a lot of people don't want to share a lot of information.
Nice, but they're not sharing.
That's
right? They're not telling you, they're not giving you everything. They're not like, "Yeah, here's my marketing campaign. Feel free to copy it." Like some of the firms I work with do.
Oh, absolutely. That's the craziest thing. And you're exactly right. That's exactly what I've experienced so far. And I can't be more pleased. Like I said, my frustration is that I'm just so far behind that I'm on a run to catch up.
Sure.
But it's, I've been given the time to do that and the opportunity. So it's
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I had a bunch, so I got through all my questions about the trades for you, but obviously feel free to share anything else you want to share. But do you have other questions for me? What else do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk a little bit on the finance side.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? I mean, you told me earlier that it's, the kind of the market's becoming, somewhat saturated as far as IRAs or financial planners. What's your take on what my move is from this point as a career changer? What are your thoughts?
Like if you want to make I mean, are you looking to kind of start your own firm and start your own thing and just kind of work with people independently, or are you looking to join a firm as an associate and kind of go through that process?
Well, again, you may have to tell me that, because here's what I've experienced, and I'll tell you this. And again, we'll have HR managers calling us, and I'll say it's all on JD Bruce. It's his show. But right when you get laid off, your panic is, oh, you got to have a job, fully qualified for any of them. And so you start applying, and then you start realizing they're not going to hire me. Look how old I am.
Yep.
Because I did the same thing. I mean, I interviewed and probably hired, well over 500 tradesmen throughout the year. And you could look at that resume, or when they interview him, and say, he's going to leave in 2 years. I mean, we're not hiring.
Freaky old dude walking in with a limp. You're like, yeah, you've been through it.
Exactly. So the disclaimer is, as you've always heard, that's ageism. It's illegal. Well, we go ahead and get that out there.
Sure.
And it is, but it's also a bias that happens.
For sure. No question.
And it goes on.
And it's interesting because I did hire a lot of associates who are career changers, who are in their, late 40s and 50s. And I've talked to a lot of firm owners. Obviously, I won't name their names because I don't want to get them in trouble with their HR. But it is a concern because it takes so long. It'd be like, you hire someone as an apprentice and they want to work for 5 years more in their career. 4 of those are going to be apprenticeship. They get 1 year as journeyman. What's the point?
Right.
Like, it's not worth it. Like, go do something else. Like, you'd be better off just working at a gas station. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that you're not going to ever actually reap the reward for the work you put in. And I would say, like, in financial planning, if you don't have a 10-year work horizon, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm also saying, like, you're not going to hit the level of success that you would hit if you had at least 10 years. Right. By 10 years, anyone can kind of hit their peak. You know what I mean? Get to a point where they can work with anyone. They can have a full book. It's like no big deal. Right. If you want to retire less than that, it's like you're still on the upswing. Right. Okay. And so it's like you're going to retire just as you're starting to hit your stride. And that's rough. Right. Yeah. When I used to run long distance in my 30s, because I was in my 30s, and that's what we do when we have the 30s midlife crisis is I'm going to run a marathon. Right. And I had a much easier time running a full marathon than a half marathon. Right. Because I got to I kind of hit my stride somewhere around mile 10. Right. And so then it's just the last little bit that I actually get the good stuff, the fun part. Right. Where it's like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm super high, all the endorphins hit and get the rush. And so the full marathon, hit mile 10, it's like mile 10 to mile 18 is great. So I get an extra 5 miles of the good stuff. And if you don't have that career length, you're going to be stopping at mile 13 and you're going to be like, oh God, that was a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. And the other thing, so many of these firm owners are in their, 30s and maybe early 40s, and you're their associate and you walk into the room with them and the eyes go to you first. Right. It's a weird kind of dynamic when they're trying to train you and they're like, oh no, he's the associate. And they're like, why'd you bring grandpa? You know what I mean? It's granddad just, it is the nature of the world. And it's like, we don't have to like it. And I don't like it, but it is, it is kind of how it is. Right. And so I do coach a lot of people who are our age, right? Anyone who's kind of over 50, you might be better off starting your own firm.
Okay.
Right. One, because a 20-year-old starting their own firm is going to have struggle being trusted. Right. No one understands when they hire a financial planner what their experience looks like. They don't even know. They don't know how to gauge it. Right. All they know is can they look you in your eyes and decide if they trust you? And so with the same level of experience as a 20-year-old who just got their CFP and you just got your CFP, closing business, you're going to be way up here through no level of skill, right? You could suck at it and you'll still close twice as often as a 20-year-old, right? Just because while there is ageism around hiring, a negative ageism around hiring someone our age into an, I don't know how old you are. I just assume the hair is similar. That these guys are, it's you get this negative bias against hiring people over 50 into that kind of apprentice position, but it works in your favor when you're actually finding clients, because there is a positive bias for age as in a financial planner, right? They would rather work with someone with gray hair, because they go, oh, you've already bought a house, you've had kids, you've done this, you've paid for college, you've done that, you've been through it in your own life enough that you have context and you have a perspective to share. Someone in their 20s is like, I learned all this stuff in school, let me apply it for you, right? I know how to do mortgage rates because I have this spreadsheet. And you're like, have you bought a house before? They're like, no, I don't even know what that would be like. You know what I mean? And so you can offer a different level of kind of experiential advice. And so I do coach a lot of people who are late career changers into just start your own thing. And as long as you have enough people to call, and most people who are late career changers will have giant networks of people they've met throughout their career, right? Imagine every person you've ever met, all the tradesmen you ever hired, right? They all trust you in a way that you didn't have to earn, because you hired them. You were in a supervisory position. They already look to you as someone who knows more, right? And you came to all those people and said, I offer financial planning services. I'll help you. They're going to go, okay, done. Compared to some LA guy, or even like a Dallas guy, right? Like wearing the suit and then whatever, and they show up in the suit to the work site no. Like it's not going to be, they're like, you don't know what my life is like, but you do, in a way that they're going to trust you, even if they're like, how long have you been doing this? You're like, a couple years. They're like, that's cool, because you've been doing this your whole life.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's personal finance. It's a different kind of professional skill.
Well, it's very well articulated. Thank you so much of how you put that. I can never see myself retiring because I'm just too anxious all the time. And like you, I get bored.
Same.
Yeah. Very quickly. So I have to keep moving.
Yeah.
And you'll have to tell me how to do that marathon thing. Currently, I'm just working on half marathon. So
yeah, I would. My back will tell you shouldn't. My back surgeon will tell you should.
Yeah.
So I don't run anymore. I'm too tall. I'm like 6'3". It's hard to run when you're 6'3". Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of knee and hip issues when you do that. You know what I mean? Because you're hitting. I run with I'd run with my wife, and she's just too long. I'm like running along. I'm like, there's two of me or two of you and me, right? Like I'm twice your size. So like when I hit the ground, we have the same knee. You know what I mean? It's just that mine is taking twice the weight that yours is. And that's a lot,
That's why I'm struggling with a little bit of aches and pains at 6'1".
Yeah. So. You may want to think about if you want to do long distance, think about like a century ride on a bike. Bicycling might be better for. I wish I had done that instead, although I hate riding bikes, so like that it wasn't going to work. And I don't like swimming either, so I figure I just don't. Now I just sit around in my massage chair and watch YouTube. You know what I mean? That's my activity. Well, I just bought a house with 20 acres, so I feel like my activity level is just going to go up naturally, because I'm going to have to haul that log somewhere.
Exactly. Well, and the same thing, and that's what we've been doing here. I have 7 acres here. And we've been working out, but now we're trying to sell it to go to the Dallas area. How you like that? So from South Texas back to home.
Wow, get back to the city. Excellent. Yeah. Is that where your kids are, or do you have kids? Like, you said you had kids, yeah.
Family's up there. Yeah.
Great. It's always nice to get back there for sure. So well, good luck on that relatively, easy relocation.
That's not a problem. Yeah.
South Texas, Dallas, it's not too far. It's like LA to San Francisco, different vibe, but same.
7 hours, not bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Wow, is it that far? Texas is so big. It's funny because like whether you're in California or in Texas, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go to the next town over. They're like, what's that? Like, I don't know, 7 hours. And anyone from outside the U.S. and Australians are the same way, because their country is similarly just very dispersed. But like you tell someone from the U.K. that you drove 7 hours, and they just look at you like you're a god.
Yeah.
I was in the UK, and I drove from Bristol to Glasgow, which is about a 6-hour drive. Yeah. And I told people I was doing it. They couldn't even talk. They just looked at me with a gaping mouth, like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
You
we don't
can't
even think about it here.
There are roads there? Like, they didn't even know. They're like, no, I take the train or fly. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, you can't drive that long. I'm like, that long? I
Yeah.
can do a 15-hour one shot. What are you talking about? I'm from California.
Yeah.
We do that for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's hilarious.
Good
All
stuff.
right. What else you want to talk about?
Well, and we might can do it, on a side meeting someday, and again, or even through the externship, we'll talk about how to get that started on my own.
We'll talk about it right now if you want.
You got it.
Oh, we're
That'd be
here. Everyone's
You
gonna
got it.
love hearing how do you
Okay.
start your own firm when you're a late career change and want to do it on your own. I think that's
Well, and you
a great
see,
conversation.
and you see under the certifications, the hours you got to have, and I'm thinking, well, okay, so how do you do that on your own?
Right. Well, I mean,
Required
it's
for-
slower because they now under the new, I don't remember what all the new rules are. I'm not a CFP, right? I'm a CPA and I have my PFS, which is like the moral equivalent, at least from the CPA perspective. We could argue about it all day, but so now it's like 4,000 hours or 3,000 hours if you're under supervision. Is that kind of how it works?
That's correct.
like that.
6,000 hours, 4,000 if under supervision.
Amazing. Okay, so 6,000 hours, or you can cut 2,000 hours off if you have a direct CFP supervisor.
Right.
So you're going to get the 6,000 hours, right? And that's, the secret is you just have to pass the 65. You don't need your CFP.
Really?
You don't have to have it. No, pass your Series 65. That's a legal license. The CFP is a certification, right? That you can get, and it gives people that feeling that you know what you're doing, right? Because you've passed this stuff and you did these hours, and that's all really good. But all you need to be a financial planner is your Series 65, which you could pass in a month.
Okay.
Right. Now we could argue about whether that's good or bad in terms of licensing and quality control in our industry.
Right.
I have some thoughts, but that's what it is. But from an actual like just legal and regulatory and logistical standpoint, you could have a firm very, very quickly. You pass Series 65, and then you have some choices, right? The Series 65 is mandatory, right? That's a licensing requirement, and every state requires it, right? There's no way to be an investment advisor with an E without passing Series 65, and then you can get registered with FINRA and the SEC.
Okay.
Got to do that. You can do that now, right? Go get the Pass the 65 book and then read it for a month and then go take the test and you'll probably pass. It's pretty easy stuff.
Okay.
You just got to know about bond yield curves and ethics and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And, a bunch of insurance questions, just some basic competency that you know what you're talking about. Once you have your CFP, you don't have to take that anymore, right? But you have to get all the hours, but to get the hours, you need to pass 65. So it's a catch-22,
Yeah.
So basically you go get your Series 65 and then your choices are, one, go get hired at a firm that is registered and then they supervise you. And then you can get it in your 4,000 hours. So 2 years roughly. You can just go register your own firm. Right. You go to there's some various organizations that'll do it. Like RIA in a Box is one on this newly popular, I think it's called Green Board. There's some other they're just compliance companies that do all your filings for you. Probably costs like $4,000 or whatever, kind of similar to like a semester at trade school these days. You pay that and they do all of your paperwork for you. They file your ADV, they get you registered, they just have all the checklists of all the things you need to do running a regulated organization. It's not that complicated, right? Once you get approved, it usually takes a few months, depending on how busy the SEC is and if they're in shutdown. But it's generally pretty quick. I've seen people get it in 2 weeks, right? I've seen other people, it takes a couple months. And then you can do whatever you want. You're registered now. You can bring on clients. You can do all that stuff, right? Now, do all that stuff is very intimidating. So you're like, what is all that stuff?
Right.
I don't know what any of it is. There is a middle way that I think is really good for a lot of people who are late career changers, especially because it puts you into a community. And that's to join some kind of TAMP platform. Have you heard the word TAMP before?
No, sir.
Okay. It stands for Turnkey Asset Management Platform or program or provider. No one can agree on what the P means. I don't know. And what they do is they're an RIA, independent, right? And you join them and register with them as an advisor. So it's like you're part of that firm, but similar to like a broker dealer, right? Like Merrill Lynch or whatever.
Okay.
You're on their platform, but you find your own clients for yourself. They're not really supervising you outside of supervising you as a rep, right? They're making sure you're following all the rules from a compliance standpoint, and whatever rules they have on the platform that like, this is what you're allowed to do here. And as long as you follow the rules, you're good. But they're not telling you like, here's your, oh, you can do this, you can't do that, or these are the kinds of clients you need to get. You're independent on the client service side, but your back office is, you kind of pay them to manage your back office. So they do all the they set up all the investment models for you, they do all the trading, they handle the kind of you might have to pay a little extra, but they'll have like client service people that'll fill out your paperwork for you if you need it, which you don't when you first start because you have nothing but time. But as you get busy, they have services you can consume to kind of help you in your business. Frequently, they have a whole technology stack that you can use. So like, here's your financial planning software, here's your CRM, here's how to use it all. They kind of give you a little bit of training on the like logistics.
Okay.
And depending on the one you're with, they'll do more or less supervision. So you might find one that's like, hey, part of our program is you get to, for 4 hours a month or 4 hours a week, sit in on client meetings and be the associate in the room, right? And they're not going to pay you for it. They're just letting you get that experience. And so because they're a CFP and you're working in their firm, depending on the structure, you might be able to fall into that 4,000 hours instead of the 6,000 hours.
Okay. Outstanding.
Right. And those are really great. There's a bunch of them out there, and you just kind of go and you pick your flavor, the one you like best. So some of them have minimums. Some of them have no minimums. They always will charge you like a percentage of like an AUM fee, basically. So a percentage of the assets on the platform and is the typical way. And you might pay like 30%, right? So someone comes on, you get $1 million client, you're managing their money at 1%. They would charge 0.3%. So you keep 0.7%, right? So it's like you're just renting a back office for your firm. That's probably the best situation for any late career changer who's starting their own firm, right? Because what you need to learn to like do all the logistics and create all the trading file and learn all the technology and build on and implement it all, like all that stuff. The people who came out of firms, right, that are leaving their firm to go be independent kind of know what that all looks like because they've been at a firm that had it all, right? They know what the categories are. They know what the general technology is. They know how to set it up together. They know what the process should be. And so they can kind of build that on their own. But if you've never been inside an advisory firm,
right,
you just don't know like what even all the, if I said to you, you need to figure out what your tech stack is going to be, you're like, great, what's stacked in the tech stack?
right.
Like, what are all the pieces, right? In the same way that like someone going into like talking to an electrician, they're like setting up their new electrical stuff. They're like, oh, you need these tools, you need that, and all these things. And here you need the bidding software and you need that. And then this is the thing that calculates the thing. And there's all the things that, if you worked in one, but you just don't even know what that looks like. If you were just, if I just went and said, oh, great, I just took all the tests and did all the stuff, but I'd never really worked for someone, and trying to do it starting off on my own as a handyman, kind of non-licensed electrician, I'd be like, I don't know all the things I need. I don't even know what tools I need to buy. You know what I mean? It's all confusing. But this is like the equivalent of like, hey, if you want to be an electrician, you just join an electrical company, but they give you all the stuff you need to have your own firm,
right,
and they just take a cut of your income. But you're doing it all yourself. You're finding your own clients. You're talking to them. You're going to the job. You're hiring your own people. Like there's no, you don't have to think about it. They just kind of give you everything you need. And different ones are different levels. And if you're just starting, you find one with as low a minimum as you can find, and don't worry about how high the percentage is that they take. If you already have clients and you're coming in with 100,000 of revenue, well, now you're looking at one that has the lowest percentage that they take because you don't need to worry about minimums anymore, right? Because you're above that. So, and switching isn't that hard, right? You go from one to another. It's not, it's not easy, but it's not that hard. And eventually, a lot of people will ultimately take their clients off of that platform, and they just go build it themselves as they get bigger. So maybe you start at a platform, you get to like 300,000 of revenue or 500,000 of revenue of all these clients. You're kind of full, and you're like, hey, I could just hire someone myself and buy all the technology myself, and it'll cost less than the 30% they're charging me.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And then so you just go independent at that point off of the platform. Yeah. And you're not locked in with a contract. You're not like stuck there. You can leave anytime you want. So your clients, like you quote unquote own them, as much as we own clients. Yeah. And so then you get to then build, then you kind of take that off of it's like, in Silicon Valley, they have those little incubators. Like if you watch the Silicon Valley show, they have the little incubator, a bunch of companies are all in one space. Yeah. It's a little bit like that. Right. And then you can always lift yourself out once you're a big, a larger organization.
That's great feedback. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And if I were in your shoes, I'd be focusing on skilled tradesmen, right? Because they're going to trust you more than they'll trust anyone else, right? For obvious reasons. And you know them all already. Yeah. You know the ones that have been successful. You know the ones that started their own shop and are making oodles of money, right?
Yes, sir.
And you might not. And do you have any experience in like kind of the independent shops that then ultimately sell? Kind of do a little, a successor issue at the end?
No, I know of it, but the experience with it, no.
But you haven't played with it. It might be an interesting thing, like if you're doing research, start looking into that specific area, because that specific area, obviously, when you sell your plumbing business, like my uncle sold his plumbing business, right? And now he lives down in the Keys and fishes and has another house in Oregon, and they did very, very well selling that business. And that's where you as the advisor get to make more money, right? Because they went from having all the savings they've been able to have and the business value, and that's cool, and they'll pay you to help. But then all of a sudden they sell their business and have $10 million, right? And now you're like, oh, cool. Let me help you really figure out how not to lose that thing, because that was your only bite at the apple, right? You know what I mean? That's like right. You're not going to build another plumbing business and then sell it. You know what I mean? Like that was it. Now you have this, and we can't lose that. That's you need to protect it in a different way. I'd be thinking hard about that as a specialty, because I think that does a lot of good for people. And obviously, being in a place where in this industry, people talk a lot about money in motion. It is way easier to find a client when they have money in motion. They just sold their company, they just retired, they quit their job, so they are going to be moving their 401k into an IRA. They got a big bonus, they got a big stock option, their company went IPO, whatever the thing is. Right. Sudden money, where suddenly it's like, oh, we had a big change in our life. That's when people hire financial advisors most of the time, right? Less and less over time, because the industry has done such a good job kind of educating people on why you should have a financial planner in the same way that you have a dentist, right? That you should go every 6 months no matter what, right? Because that's what you should do. And financial planning is more like a maintenance than it is an optimization. It used to be an optimization. Now it's just you should have one because you'll make better decisions. So finding those areas for skilled tradesmen who are coming into sudden money, either through inheritance or selling their practice or retiring, and now they have a pension, to the extent those still exist. Those are the areas where it's easiest to pick up clients. And so the more you know about the M&A process, or if someone came to you and said, hey, I have this electrician business, it has $2 million of revenue, I want to get out and sell it. the more you're able to say, okay, here's what that process looks like. Let me introduce you to these people who are the people who sell your firm. These are the lawyers that specialize in it. And here's the other people. And in fact, I know of another electrical company that might want to buy yours, right? You want to make the big bucks, get involved in that kind of M&A, and you will be extremely valuable to all these people, because that's a big area. I mean, I say that a little bit because that's kind of what I did for financial planning firms, right? I bought a bunch of them. I got involved in that world. I understand how it works. And now if someone says, hey, I want to sell, I'm like, okay, well, this is how you do that. And here, in fact, hey, why don't I introduce you to this person and they'll buy you? And as a deal maker like that, you can do very well.
You have a lot of experience, Mr. Bruce.
So do you, right? I mean, it's all the same. It's just
in different worlds, right?
We've all seen some shit, you know what I mean? And
exactly.
I think the idea is take what you've seen and figure out what you learned from that other people haven't learned yet, and make that available to other people. I think you could actually do really well. And this was actually, one of the things that how we got introduced. I made that post on LinkedIn, and you're like, hey, what about this? I'm like, oh shoot, we got to talk. Like, I want to share your knowledge with the world because of those, those issues that it's hard to get people into the trades. I think you could do really well with kind of taking what you did when you would go into high schools, and tell people about the trades, and just make that a whole webinar course that people could go through, where you're helping them. And in fact, as you get clients in who are from the skilled trades, now they actually obviously have their, they have their experience as well, what they went through. Right. But they might have kids who are like, yeah, I don't want to get in and be an electrician, but I also don't want to go to college. And you're like, hey, give them to me. I'll sort them out. And if you want to make your clients happy, you help their kids and grandkids, right? Exactly. You don't helping them. They're like, okay, cool. That's what I pay you for. Yeah. But you want to make them loyal for life. You teach their grandkid how to be a better salesperson, right? Yeah. And then obviously, grandma's going to love you forever.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think you could do really, really well. If I were in your shoes, my marketing would be around helping people get into and succeed in the trades. I would have presentations that I stick online about how to choose a trade, how to think about trade school versus apprenticeship first, right? To think about, should you go union? Should you not go union? Right? Should you do this? Should you do that? I'd have YouTube videos or blog articles or whatever with that kind of content. And then another series of now you're in the trades and you're making a bunch of money, similar to the people who are buying all the F-150s all tricked out. What should you have done? And you could go back and look at your life and go back in time and think about and do a retroactive financial plan for yourself, making the choices you made and this is how I got there. Yeah. And then go back and pick out as many mistakes as you can identify that if you had done something different, you'd have X amount more money. Right. And you're like, hey, if I had not bought that fancy truck at that age and instead just saved it and had a moderate budget and did it right, like the way you would advise people to do, I'd have an extra $600,000 in my bank account right now. Because you can do that math. It's easy. Right. And if you did that and you came to people, these, 20 to 30-year-olds who are new to the trades, who suddenly making money when they weren't before, especially that first or second year journeyman where they really get the bump, you know what I mean? Where it's oh, damn, you're killing it now. And if you can show them evidence of what happens when you have better decision-making, I mean, do you have any idea how much more money you'd have if you had made better financial decisions along the way? Have you calculated it? Have you estimated it?
Yes, sir.
How much?
$2.3 million.
$2.3 million is what you don't have because of bad decisions.
Don't have.
You could have an entire content series on that people would be pounding down your door to say, hey, help me.
Yeah, let's do this.
And the right decisions.
Yeah.
This is why I tell people who are, late career changers, just start your own firm, right? Because the CFP doesn't matter that much. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. So there are clients you won't get if you don't have a CFP, for sure. Right. But there's lots of people who don't care. And I think if you're focusing on people in the skilled trades, I think they care less. Because I think, they understand the value of experience and apprenticeship way more than a certificate or degree, right?
Right.
As a community, not everyone, obviously. And so I think you would have, you could probably make money just from the content alone, right? You just do it on Substack, have people subscribe. I don't know how much, that skilled trades community is on Substack, but put it wherever they are. You know what I mean? Whether that's YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram, I don't know where, where that kind of content is. And I think people just kind of fall in. Because once they hear you and they know you, and the more, quite honestly, you can create a parasocial relationship with people. You know what parasocial relationship means?
Not really.
It's a weird term. I just learned it relatively recently, but it's that that idea of like, people have their favorite singer or their favorite author or their favorite TV host or whatever. They feel like because they've watched them so much that they already have a relationship with them, right? They don't really. Right. So it's not a real social relationship. They've never spoken to them. Right. But there's this parasocial relationship is what they call it, which is they already know you and trust you. And so if you, as the professional in that situation who has that relationship with someone, if you walk into that relationship as if you have an actual real social relationship, you have instant trust because they already trust you. Right. They listen to hours of your podcasts. They're already comfortable with you. And so you walk in and start at that place of instant comfort with them. Like, no, we do know each other, right? They're like, oh, my whole life has been validated. This person who I thought I liked and respected and knew knows me too. Yeah. And they don't know you the same way because I don't know what your history is. I don't know how it is. I mean, you've seen my face, I don't know how much longer than I've seen yours. I've seen yours probably a sum total now of about 2 hours, right? So maybe 45 minutes plus this call, right? But my guess is 10 times that you've seen my face.
Yes, sir.
Right. And that's an interesting dynamic. And the more you can create that with the people who are watching your content, then when they're actually thinking, hey, I have a question about my finances, you're like, hey, let me manage your financial life. They're like, well, you'll do that for me? You're like, yeah, that's what I do. Right. That's easy. And they feel like you're doing them a favor. Because you're not just some shark. You're the person that helped their kid figure out what trade they wanted to get into. It's a whole different dynamic. You've already done all the good stuff for them. And they're coming to you saying, like, how can I ever repay you? And I think that's a really, really strong niche to go into that other people could never touch you because they didn't spend 35 years in the trades. Right? I know a lot of firms who focus on blue collar workers. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, we like plumbing companies like this. And I'm like, that's cool because your dad was a plumber. So you understand the world, but you weren't, you know what I mean? And so you're going to have the advantage every time against a firm like that if you're competing, which doesn't happen that often. I think it's really, I think you have a huge potential to do lots of cool stuff.
I think you've obviously provided a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Now you mentioned you struggle with a little anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. Is that going to stop you from just like jumping in there and creating content, putting yourself out there?
No, that's what happens.
Okay, cool. You're that kind of guy. You're like, I know how to fight my anxiety. I'll just stop thinking about it and do it. And then I can't be worried about it anymore.
Yeah, you just keep doing it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, good. Then you won't have those troubles. Perfect.
Yeah. No, it's just the anxiety part of it is I can't. I don't like stopping. I got to keep moving. And so
good. Start your firm.
That's why the retirement's never really come into question. In 20 years, if I can, if I feel like slowing down, maybe, but right now, my wife talks about it. I can't do that. That's
slowing down. What does that mean?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Changing what you're doing is interesting, because I have ADHD. I'm going to change what I'm doing every day. Like I get bored so fast. You know what I mean? So but not doing anything sounds a little crazy.
It does.
I look forward to doing things that I never worry about making money. That's always exciting.
Yeah.
But the more you save, the faster you get there.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm amazed. It's funny because I expected when I asked you how much money you don't have because of bad financial decisions, I didn't actually expect you to have a number.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah,
I thought
we
you were like,
run
yeah,
it.
I never really calculated it because most people don't.
Yeah.
And the fact that you did is awesome. I love that you went and went, huh, what did this cost me? You know, and that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And
It just piles on more of the regret of, man, can't believe I didn't do that.
it's funny because those mistakes are what's going to make you a better financial planner. And your vulnerability and be able to answer that question live on YouTube for everyone to see forever is also what's going to make you a very good financial advisor. You know what I mean? Like that ability to be vulnerable, that ability to just say the truth because it's true, is those are some of the core skills for advisors. It's really easy to tell someone, hey, you need to save another $5,000 a month, and then by this point you'll have that much money. Like that kind of analysis stuff that's not hard, right? That's the easy part of our job. The hard part of our job is coming to someone and saying, you told me these are all the things you want. Sorry. There's no way. Right? Here's your plan B. And I don't know if you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And we've had to have that conversation. Right. And sometimes I have that conversation in a way where they're coming in with this idea that they deserve all the things they want. And so I'm disabusing them of their identity. They're like, no, I deserve to have massages every day. And you're like, that's not a thing that anyone deserves. You know what I mean? Like that's not a deserve thing. You know what I mean? Like get off your horse. That's crazy. But I've literally heard that from people, and disabusing them of that usually means you're going to lose the client because they're like, well, you're just telling me I'm not who I am. And I'm like, but I've had other people who were high-priced lawyers making $1 million a year. They got to a point where they were on disability. They didn't have the ability to work like that anymore. It was just too damaging to their whole physical and mental health. And now they're trying to survive on, disability income and not $1 million a year.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you might need to move here. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I can live in that area. I'm like, well, you're not going to be able to live in this area for very long. And taking people who went from a lifestyle and identity of someone a lawyer who's making $1 million a year to I can live a simple life and be at peace. That's the hard work. You know what I mean? And
it is. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And your experience of being able to look at your life and see the things that you did that were like, oops, man, I wish I didn't even like that thing I did, and it cost me $2.3 million. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
God, I did like it wasn't even
short term, short lived.
It's one thing when you're like, man, I took that trip and it was super rad, but damn, it was expensive. You know what I mean? And that's going to cost me in the future. That's one thing. But doing something where you're like, wow, that was expensive and I hated it and I wish I had never done it, and it's going to cost me in the future. That's even worse. That's really tough.
Yeah.
So your ability to do that and be able to communicate that and be able to talk people through those mistakes before they hit them is going to be transformative for a lot of lives. And this is why I think late career changers actually do way better than early career changers or new grads in this profession from a speed perspective. You just move really fast and you can do things that other people can't, because so much of our job as advisors is to take our own observed and personal experience and share that with others so they don't make mistakes. Wow. And it's just so much easier to do that when you've had 40 years of life experience as an adult that they don't have. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're like, hey, I've seen it all. Yeah. I'll tell you where you're making a mistake, and I'm not going to be shy about it because I don't have time for that shit. You know what I mean? That's a different energy than you're going to get from your average 25-year-old who's just breaking in his career, who's like, oh, can I say that in a meeting? You're like, well, yeah, you can say that. What are they going to do?
Right. That's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think I think you have some really strong potential, and I'd get on it as soon as you can.
Okay.
No need to wait for any of that stuff. Add clients while you're studying, right? Are you going to get many of them? Probably not. You're going to win way fewer clients in the sales process than you would otherwise, but you'll get some, and that's how you get started. Right. You find the people that are willing to take a chance on you, and you're undercharging what they should be paying, so you compete on price because you can. And ultimately you raise those people's fees 5 years from now, but they get a great deal for working with someone who's just getting started.
Outstanding.
Mhm.
That's good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
What else do you want to
Good
talk about?
Hey, anything you have. We can talk.
What do you want to know? So like, go, if I'm giving you homework, like if this were a consulting call, I'd say go research TAMPs. Go
That's
research
what
every platform you can find. Search for TAMPs, search for co-ops, search for anything you can find. A few of the ones I know, there's one I think called Core Planning. There's a Vise, XYPN Sapphire are some of the ones I know really well. Some of those have minimums. So they won't
the
be a good fit, but-
XYPN is one that I'm familiar with. Still don't
yeah,
know
take a
lot
look at
about.
them. In particular, look at their Sapphire product. That's what they call this service, where you join their firm essentially, but operate independently. So that's called Sapphire. And that I would use that as your kind of baseline, right? XYPN Sapphire is like, this is what I'll compare all the other ones to. There'll be ones that could be better fits. Some that'll be worse fits, but it's a really easy one to see and then to judge everyone else based on, because it's a good program. They really understand the industry. I know them really well. Their hearts are absolutely in the right place. They're not a fit for everyone, but as a benchmark, I think they're fantastic to use for that. So
Okay.
start there
Got it.
and see what you think you can do. Actually, that's second thing. The first is go past Series 65. No reason not to do it right now.
Got it. Shouldn't be
Take a
a
little of
problem.
your extra time. It's really easy,
Yeah.
just at the end of the day. I say that, but I had the highest score at my firm for a long time. Finally, someone did beat me. Good for him. But it was it did take a while, and then they stopped telling you your score, which I thought was these next generation snowflakes can't handle seeing their
Yeah.
score. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Rah, I want the competition. You know what I mean? I want to know that that who beats me on the test score,
Yeah.
but they stopped telling you.
I think the SEI test, I took that just a year ago, just to see, and it was the same way. It passed, and I thought, what I make? I mean, how
Yeah,
did I
right.
do?
Tell me, like, was I close? Did I overstudy? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I suppose people who know better than I do figured out it's worse to do that. So what are you going to do?
I guess so.
What about tax? Have you thought about tax prep?
I haven't. Not at this point.
I think the future of financial advice is that tax preparation and wealth management will all be under the same roof. I don't think you're going to have separate tax firms and separate financial planning firms. I mean, you will, right? But I think right now the number of firms that do both is the minority. I think the firms that'll do both will be the vast majority going forward. It's just better from a client perspective, right? The client doesn't
Right.
have to have two providers, right?
Right.
And then you don't have to try and deal with your client's tax preparer who's probably an idiot. You know what I mean? And then you're like, now I have to deal with that crap. And they don't actually execute my ideas and things I think would be better tax planning. Like it's a mess. And especially when you're starting out, it's just the truth that not everyone needs a financial planner, right? But
Right.
everyone needs to file their taxes,
That's correct.
right? And so there are people who are like, I don't know if I need a financial planner. And you're like, well, you definitely need to file your taxes, so I can help you with that.
So having said that, what advice are you telling me?
Look into the idea of whether or not you might, if you're going to start your own firm,
Okay.
think about whether or not you might want to get your enrolled agent license.
Okay.
Or certification or whatever they call it. It's kind of a mix between a license and a certification.
No,
So
I've
it
looked
does
into
give you-
that, and that's
It does give you legal
what it is.
stuff. The EA is really good. And I think if you have your CPA and your EA and you're independent on your own and you're able to do taxes and investment management and financial planning for people, I think you have a really, really winning combination. Because you can just become the center of someone's financial life. And the extra tax revenue when you're just getting started is really helpful. And ultimately, you can hire someone to come in and do the actual grunt work of doing the taxes. But the reality is, these days with all the computer programs, it's just not that hard.
Right.
If you've done all the work to do their financial plan, honestly, you should be able to do their taxes. You have
Right.
all the info. And if you're not getting all that information, if you don't have enough information to do their taxes, then, I mean, there's certain forms and stuff that you probably don't get as a financial planner, but you get the info. Like just asking them to give you all that stuff every year makes you a better financial planner because now you have more info, right? The more information you have about someone, the better advice you're able to give them. And it's hard sometimes to get an external CPA. Like if you're not doing it and you get the client CPA and you're like, hey, can you send me over the tax return? Maybe you'll get it and maybe you won't. Like you might not even get copies of your client's tax return. It's difficult, right? We try to do that for all of our clients, and we had 1,600 clients, and maybe we get like 300-400 tax returns. Like, and we have our CSAs like calling the tax preparers all the time, and it's just like it's no benefit to them. They're like, why? It doesn't help us to share this with you, so why do you want us to take all this extra time? Right. And for really wealthy clients, it's pretty easy because you're working very closely with them. But like for your smaller clients, like, you know, they don't call you back. They're like, we're busy. I don't need to call back some financial planner who just wants to get in my business anyway. Tell me what to do. Like I don't need them, you know, I should be able to do their job. You know what I mean? And so if you can do all that stuff, I think it's a really, really good service model. So something to think about once you've passed the CFP, then, you know, you're going to still be in learning mode, right? Go get the EA. It's very good.
Okay.
I'm a big fan.
Now I've looked at the EA and you know, not deeply, but I've gone through and read about it, and I thought, you know, this may be something I'm going to have or need.
Yeah,
or
I think it's
good.
I think it's a really, really good thing to have. And certainly, if you wanted to go work for a firm, it makes you vastly more marketable.
Okay.
Because, you know, I mentioned that, like, all right, did I mention? Maybe I was talking to someone else earlier today. 15 years ago, you'd post a job for a financial planner, you might get 5 to 10 submissions, right? It was hard. Like I remember when we started getting more than 10 applicants to our open roles, and I was like, yeah, we finally did it, right? Now you'll get 200.
Wow.
Right. I mean, and honestly, like we talked about the externship in Hannah Moore, like a lot of that's because of her, right? And her putting people through this program and giving people that, like, that introduction to what this is, and like, hey, let me tell you about why this is cool, right? Honestly, you know, we talked about all these people moving into the trades. You should start right now. Just do the externship for the trades.
Yeah.
Right. Do an 8-week course. They come in, all these different tradespeople come in and talk about what they do. You have like 30 different trades come in and just say, this is what we do. And you do it with thousands of people, and they pay you $100 or whatever, a couple $100 for the experience. It's a very replicable, what she's done is very replicable to other industries. And I think the trades need this more than anything.
Well, and I think it goes with, you know, exactly your question you asked earlier, you know, how do you know what to go into? But if you had that, you have an opportunity to go, well, let's see what these guys do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're the idea guy. Nice job.
I think it would be so, I think, you know, and the number of people moving into the financial planning profession compared to the number of people who are thinking about moving into the skilled trades, that's a multiple that's really high, right? There's 10, 20, 100 times as many people, right? And so like putting a program like that together, you might go, yeah, maybe I don't want to do financial planning. Actually, this is way easier, you know? So you can call Hannah and just say, hey, can I just copy what you do and do it over here for these people? She's like, sure, here's the cookbook.
Did you get that article in the Bloomberg talking about that 700B and they're putting out there for man camps for electricians, pipe fitters, for those guys?
No, I haven't. Share it with me and Dylan, the producer, and he'll put it down in the description so that people can read it. I think that sounds like a really cool article.
Yeah, just to build the AI data centers.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, there's such a huge. It's going to be, you know, I mean, pretty soon you're going to need to be an astronaut to do that. But
exactly.
You know, which is also like, at some point, like historically, if you want to be an astronaut, you needed to be like a PhD and everything. But starting kind of now, you'll need to be a skilled tradesperson, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, oh, we just need an electrician. They'll put you through the 2-week space boot camp. You know, it's not that complicated. And make sure you don't puke too much when we spin you around or whatever they do. You know, I don't know what they do for astronauts. But yeah, I mean, if Elon Musk has his way, there's going to be a lot more astronauts.
Oh, absolutely.
and it's not going to be as glamorous. It's a little bit like, my grandfather was an American Airlines pilot back in the, 40s, 50s, 60s, the heyday, right? Where
Yeah.
you like walk in, you're like, I'm a pilot. And everyone's like, ooh, and now you're like, I'm a pilot. They're like, okay, I'm a bus driver. You want to hang? Like it's the same thing, right? The profession it's not the same, it doesn't have the same cachet anymore. An astronaut's going to be that soon,
How fun.
right? Everyone's going to go to space, right? They're like, yeah, I got to go.
Yeah, it's
A
part of
wiring
everyday
project.
living.
I'll see you in a few days. I'm up in space for a while. Do some asteroid mining.
Yeah.
Like this is,
That's incredible.
I don't know about my lifetime, but my kid's lifetime for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
my
You and
lifetime.
me. Yeah. You and I may never see it.
Well,
But
I mean, we'll start
they
seeing
will.
the beginnings of it probably,
Yeah.
or it could
Yeah.
happen really fast because Elon Musk is trying to move quick and
He
he
is.
wants to build data centers in space, not in 20 years, but he wants to build data centers in space tomorrow. So there's going to be people up there and it aren't going to be the PhDs running cable up there.
No. Oh, no.
They don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. They'll do their research up there, but it's going to be the builders are going to build it.
You're exactly right. And there's a, like I said, demand is high. We just got to get the supply up there to meet the demand.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like every time I hear anything from anyone in the trades, they're like, demand is high. Like you won't work, you just get it.
Yeah.
Right. But then like I talk to people who are trying to do that and they're like, I don't even know. Like I tried. I went to this person, I emailed that one, never heard back. I talked to 4 union halls and they're like, yeah, come back next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you hear that as well. And it's like, well, what's the
story.
what's the disconnect there? Right. There's clearly a disconnect. And anytime I see that kind of inefficiency in the market, right? Because clearly that's just a market inefficiency, right? There's these people don't know how to talk to those people.
That's exactly
That's a huge opportunity, whether it's for you or someone else. Someone should be building that because I'd put my kid through it immediately. Right. Honestly, I'd put my kid through it even if they weren't interested in the trades. Just go take 8 weeks and figure out if you want to do it. Right. And the pre-apprenticeship programs that are based on the the M3, whatever the thing is, those pre-apprenticeship programs that are pretty standardized. Like you're going to learn carpentry, you're going to learn a little electricity, you're going to learn a little plumbing, you're going to learn a little of that kind of stuff, but it's like job site stuff, right? Construction stuff. Like the construction industry seems to have kind of figured this out a little bit.
Yeah.
But the less kind of obvious trades, right? Like yours, right? Industrial automation isn't one that is on everyone's lips. You know what I mean? You only know about that if you really start thinking about it. And fabrication and like CNC and like all these things that like, what you hear is, oh, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. That's the 3. Maybe elevator repair seems to do really well. Like when I'm Googling for it, like, but outside those 4, you don't hear about all these other weird little ones like tool and die people. And that, like it's a very specific niche. And it was interesting because like I started my career at Pricewaterhouse, big accounting firm. And in our 2-week training, they had the people at all the different departments come in and just tell us about what they did. And I was pretty close to raising my hand for the forensic accounting group, right? Because forensic accounting is super cool, right? Yeah. The woman came in and she's like, yeah, we're the kind of people. And, the way I describe it is like, we come in with the FBI with our calculators drawn, you know what I mean? And then like, they would literally like the FBI raids the house and they walk in after them. It's like CSI for computers. I'm like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
And they're like, yes. And you have to travel 95% of the time. And I'm like, I'm out. It was, but like I got some exposure to it. I heard about it and I went, oh, that's really cool. And there's a part of me that always looks back on that and go, man, that actually would have been really cool. Yeah. Like I wish I'd done that a little. Like that would have been interesting. It would have been a very different life path, but would have been pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's been a good opportunity for you.
So what are some of I'm going to bring it back to the skilled trades because we still have more time and I'm really interested in this topic. But feel free to ask any other questions you want to ask and direct this conversation somewhere else. But like you mentioned nursing, I think that's really interesting to think of that in the bucket of skilled trades because most people don't, right? And I would say other things that are, more traditionally women-centered careers kind of get taken out of the skilled trades, because like cosmetology, I would argue, is the same thing.
Exactly.
That it's also a skilled trade. It's just part of the, and it's similar, taught in the same trade schools. But you don't think about that as skilled trades because it's for women, not entirely, but for historically. What are some other like trades that people don't really think of, like that if they're like, oh, that's a thing, that's cool, right? What are some of those other ones that you've seen or experienced or know about?
Well, the one that I've just recently experienced and did not think about it actually I was teaching a class, kind of across the street from it at the local college there, is occupational therapy. And I did not realize that, and there are so many people in that program that it's a skilled trade.
Right. It's like physical therapy and like, recovery kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've also discovered from some of the people that are taking it right now, they said the market's kind of saturated down here. And so a few people started and they were talking to me about the skill trade of the occupational therapy. And I said, okay, so what are you looking at? He said, well, we've been looking at the job postings, at things that are available through this avenue of occupational therapy. And, I'm hearing it, it's you can't get a job, that everything's full here. There's nothing to do. And I said, what about other areas? Because they were interested in the Dallas-Fort Worth area also. So we're looking into that for them, and we'll see, is there a better market there? Or is it just not? Is that something we need to continue with, or is something else you want to look at? But they were really interested in occupational therapy. And again, it's part of the skills trade listing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. What are some other ones?
The physical therapy itself, not just necessarily occupational therapy.
Right.
A young lady I talked to that's in the therapy area, not that I was in therapy, but she was telling me about it. And she's in her 2-year program. Now, if you want to become the certified guru of physical therapy, then it's a 4-year program, just like
it's like a master's program.
Yeah, just like a registered nurse.
Right.
It's a 4-year program here. So some of that, there's plumbing. Of course, you see the big list when they're talking about these AI data centers. There's air conditioning technician, plumbing, pipe fitting, and like you said, those are the common ones you always.
That's the top 10, right?
Right.
Like I was interested as I was looking through kind of job listings around trades, like tool and die manufacturer. Yeah. Like that seems like an interesting one where you're like, they kind of, there's the construction job site stuff, but then there's the like shop work, right? The manufacturing, what's the word I'm looking for? All the fabrication stuff, the sheet metal, actually just taking the stuff in the shop and building it for then other people's to go install over there, right? Where you're not out there on job sites, you're in the shop.
Right. And that was one of the departments that reported to me was the machine shop guys. These guys are CNC. I mean, of course, when I was, I guess, their manager, they were mostly the old school machinists, and they were awesome. These guys could build anything, and they impressed me every day. So, but they were some of the big ones that would go to these schools and talk to them about the machinist. And of course, these old guys are saying, well, all they're teaching now is just the computer programming of the CNC. Totally. If that CNC breaks, they're not going to be sure how to manually.
Yeah, they don't know how to use all the other cool stuff that we've been using for 100 years.
So it's still a big deal in school, the manual side of it, but these machinists.
It's not happening that often. Yeah, it's a machinist, CNC. Yeah, CNC, like as I think about, I asked you about what about people with physical limitations. It seems like that kind of, assembly, CNC, the machinist people, like, you still need to be able to move stuff around. You're still taking big pieces of metal and moving from one part of the shop to the other, but especially on the computer stuff, it maybe is a little bit, a little less physical.
It is,
or at least less of a grind physically. You still need to lift something up, but you're not that's not your day, right? That's just a thing to get the thing on the table.
I said, plumbing probably would not be conducive to a less physical environment.
No, yeah, obviously, carpentry, plumbing. There's some where you need to be
Right.
Got to use your body.
Yeah.
But
You have to.
an electrician's probably somewhere in the middle, I imagine, because you're still pulling cable. You know what I mean? It still requires a level of.
Well, the industrial electricians, and this kind of gives you an idea of just what I was talking about when we were talking about the industrial electricians. Uh, they pay them good money. They were, I think, the last group I was with were up to $63 an hour.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they were a smaller group. It wasn't as big of an electrical group as you would think. It was a smaller group, but they were our troubleshooting guys,
Yeah.
high voltage guys that, there's a lot of danger involved, but they were very good at what they did. Now, when it came to, the wire pulls, the digging the trenches, the burying the cables, then they got the apprentices out of the union hall.
Right. Of course. Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
No, of course they do. As they should, Now, like if you walk into the IBW and you come in and you're like, oh, I have done, I went to community college. I got through calculus C or whatever. I got through 2 years of calculus.
Right.
Do you kind of go on a different list, versus
No.
the people who kind of come in and are like, bro, I just like carrying stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like a physical one, but like, do they look at you and you're like, yeah, let's take that kid to the smart person jobs and like take the other ones to maybe the more grunt jobs? Like, do they start thinking about that, or is it more egalitarian where it's like, no,
Yeah,
you
there
get
may
called,
be
you
a
get called.
bias for that, but really it's not. It's in the mindset is, so it's great you got that, but you're going over here and helping us dig ditches today.
Sure.
It's one of those.
Yeah, that's what we got to do today.
Yeah, that's it.
That's how apprentices do it. You do everything. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
And
interesting.
that's if you're going through a union hall. And I'll tell you this: for the first company I worked for 24 years, it was a union plant.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I was in the union for first 3-4 years, and then I went into management. So you're out of the union.
Yeah, they don't want you in there
Now
now.
you're the bad guy. Yeah, it's so
Get out
funny
of here,
because-
suit. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Great friends had with the union. I went to management side. Now they don't know me, won't talk to me in the store, and but it was, they were very supportive of the labor force. One thing that, probably with that union, they were the steel workers. They didn't support the education like the IBEW does. I mean,
Right.
the IBEW is incredible about how they get people in and support their future.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So not all unions are equal. I just have to say I've hired a good number of IBEW electricians.
Okay. So you're generally a fan of the unions, but some of them you're like, yeah, they exist.
They're there. Yeah. And yourself, Texas is not a big union state. So
Sure. Yeah, of course. You're not like Pennsylvania or whatever, or some of those over in the Rust Belt. Yeah.
we went to, I was working with HR and we went into union negotiations, with the first company. And I was laughing because we hired a lawyer out of Houston. He come help us with that. And he was excited. He goes, man, Texas just don't have unions. This will be fun. I get to do something, So he was glad that he had something to do because it's just not a big union state. But
Sure.
and it worked out all right. So he
Sure,
did.
that's interesting. Well, I mean, so what's your opinion about that? Like if someone were getting started in the trades, like there is kind of the debate, like, do you go to the union hall and start that way? Or do you start non-union jobs and don't worry about that union stuff? Cause you can get through it just as easily. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like
Right.
you can't be an electrician outside the union. You can.
Yeah. If I were to give the recommendation, I would certainly send them to a trade school, electrical,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not the day in and day out apprenticeship of, you dig in, you're cleaning up, you're hauling the trash, but the trade school gets you right into the technical side of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not so much focused on, bending the conduit, pulling the wire as much as they are. Here's how, electromagnetic forces work,
Right.
and teaching you that.
So what does that look like? So if you went to trade school, right? So say you did 2 years of trade school, you come out with your certificate or whatever you get out of trade school, like your associates or whatever you get for electrical. So you get that. And then you're going to look for your first real job, right? Now you're going up in that 2 years. your other friend said, I'm going to go be an apprentice. I'm going to start that way. And so they started as an apprentice and did school at night. They've now had 2 years through their apprenticeship. What does the next like couple years look like, right? For a trade school graduate versus someone who's starting as an apprentice?
There, again, the school for the apprentice, the one going to, the union hall to the apprenticeship, he's going to be going to classes. It's going to be a different set of classes as you start with, your basics, and then you're teaching your calculations. And they do that at the trade school, but this guy's going to be working during the day.
Right.
From the union hall. He's going to be going out with a journeyman. He's going to be the helper. He's going to be doing all that. The guy in the trade school is just going to school.
Right.
Now, he could probably work for some
get some side gigs or whatever, or whatever. But
and in 2 years, according compared to the 4-year apprenticeship that this guy's going at the union hall, in 2 years, this gentleman's coming out of trade school and he has a job. Again, they guarantee you a job up there at this particular trade school. You get tuition back. But he's going in there, and in fact, one of the gentlemen that I worked with, his son just did it. Come out, went right into an electrical testing company, and they're again making $40 to $60 an hour. And on the run, and he's doing more of a technical work than he would be doing the labor side of it.
Right. And so, like, in terms of the ability to kind of, let's say you want to be a master electrician, right? In terms of the kind of speed, you do 2 years of trade school versus 4 years of apprenticeship, and then you're a journeyman, and then you spend however long as a journeyman. But trade school, then you get a job, you learn some stuff. You don't have that same journeyman structure. What's that path look like, and how quickly do you get there? Like, what's the difference there?
It'll be the length of time, and it's the length of time you work under a master.
Okay.
Now, if you're going through the IBEW, then it's 4 years apprenticeship, 4 years journeyman. Then you can go take your license test.
Okay. So it's 8 years basically to get to the ability to take the test, right? Similar to the 6,000 hours for your CFP or whatever, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And it's the same concept. I mean,
getting
your hours and all that. So it's, and on the trade school side, again, it's going to be the hours.
Okay, so it's pure like, okay, we get 2 hours of school, and then you just go get a job for 6 years, and you're a master electrician qualified to take the test at that 8-year mark, no matter whether you started at trade school or whether you started.
That's correct. That's correct.
And the trade school people, basically, you're saying like, if you maybe have more physical limitations or don't want to do the ditch digging, go to trade school, and then you bypass that for the most part. Right. Depending on the job you get, obviously, like if you get a job where that's part of the job, that's what it is. But it's not
there's a lot of
necessary.
Like you were talking, I mean, even in the electrical side of it, you can learn AutoCAD. You can be the draftsman. You can do all the drawings for them when they go out in the field and do the work. So there's a lot of opportunities.
To work more on the support side than the just like, well, you're going to start by digging, and then eventually you can learn all that other stuff. Here, you're like, you're going to learn all the other stuff, and then you can decide where you want to focus. Right. Interesting. Okay, so trade school, you think is going to be a better experience for most people, unless they just don't have that. They can't afford the tuition or whatever else. It's generally a better experience. At least in a place like Texas, maybe in other locations, it's a little more union heavy. So it's like, you might have trouble finding a job as an electrician if you're not in the union.
Yes.
Now, what about if you do trade school for 2 years and then go to the union hall? Like, do you kind of bypass some of the apprentice days or no?
No, they're
like, no, good for you. Yeah, I guess your evenings will be free. You know what I mean? Like, but otherwise, dig the ditch, bro. You're starting fresh.
You're spot on.
Okay. Good to know. So of all the unions out there, IBEW you feel like is one of the good ones.
To me, that
you've seen. What are other good ones you've seen? Like, what other kind of more not well-known unions are there that you're like, oh, they're actually really great. They take care of their people so good. Like, versus maybe some of the other ones you mentioned that are like, yeah, I mean,
There's a construction union. I'm not familiar with them. They're around here. I believe they're headquartered in San Antonio. tried to look into them before. No one's responded. Done all that.
So maybe
So,
not
well,
them.
Yeah. So it's the only one that I know that's been extremely good over my whole career has been the IBEW.
Yeah,
And
they seem to always rise to the top in my Google searches or whatever. They're like, yeah, go to that one. They're great.
and it's even in their night classes. I mean, they have top quality instructors. They've been there, they've done that, they've known all the calculations, they know how to make it easier for you
Mhm.
to understand it. So yeah, to me, the IBEW does a great job.
All right, last annoying question about the skilled trades. You're like, I'm trying to be a financial planner, man. Like, okay, last question. So, like, when you first were getting started, you went to the trade school, and just like, when I found my first jobs out in the world, like, I went to the local community college and just looked on all the little job board postings that were sitting on the little press board with the little pins. You know what I mean? It's like they just had a phone number someone wrote down on a piece of paper and they just posted it there.
Right.
I'm guessing that it's not like that anymore. Right. But I don't know. Like, what is it in the trades? Like, if you're looking for just like a part-time gig in the trades, like, or just seeing what all the job postings are for the people who exit. But even if you're just looking for like, hey, what about like just a mechanic's assistant or whatever, like, some of those like assistant jobs that you don't need training for, like, where would you go to find those listings? Is it still just go to the trade school, and maybe they have a database now, but it's all that's the funnel, or are there other places?
If you're looking, I mean, if there's a trade that you're in and that takes you to that trade school, then the job boards will be there.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll also, I mean, they post them online. But if you're just looking to be, hey, I'm going to try this out to be an assistant and all that, then yeah, you'll have to go specifically to a website outside of that. The job board strictly is for anything that you're particularly specializing in that particular trade school.
Or like the jobs you'll get when you graduate, not like jobs while you're a student, right? They don't really.
Right. And they do offer internships
Uh-huh.
that you can go spend 3 months, your summer, you go here,
Okay.
see what it's all about. And that's
Mhm.
usually about your fourth semester.
Okay. You'll start doing internships on job sites or in shops or wherever.
That's right.
Interesting.
And they offer that.
All right. Now, if you want to be an astronaut electrician, do you have any advice?
Sounds to me like you're very interested in doing this astronaut thing.
Well, I mean, look, like, you can go be an electrician, or you can go be an electrician in space.
Yeah.
And like, once you add in space to the end of almost anything, it's cooler.
Yeah. And I think people raise their hands and say, hey, is there a man camp? We can stay there. We can do. And,
Right,
we come back about every 3 months or 28 days on, 28 days
Yeah. You're not going to go for it's a couple weeks. You go up and then you come back, or you get stuck up there for months.
I think it's
in
pretty
some
cool, though.
sci-fi show, for all mankind.
Uh,
All right, man. Any last questions for me before we wrap up?
No, I'm pretty sure when I walk away from this, and again, I can't thank you enough for everything that you do for all other wannabe aspiring financial planners. You've done a tremendous job, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to meet you and to talk with you here today. But I look forward to seeing you again come summertime.
Yeah, if you're around for the externship, it'll be July 1st is my marathon session. So I look forward to seeing you there, and you can ask any questions you think between now and then. Happy to answer them.
I walk away from here, I'll have 1,000 more. I thought.
Obviously, you can shoot me emails as well whenever you have some thoughts as you're doing all this crazy stuff. So thank you so much for taking a couple hours to answer all my questions about the skilled trades and talk about your future plans. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Appreciate it.
All right. I mean, see, look, Texas and California can come together and be friends. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we can.
We just need the politicians to watch this show and realize, we could do that too.
Yeah, they just need to get out of the way. And
then we can all just hang out and chat. We can make fun of you. You can make fun of us. That's how it's been for the last 30 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
My funniest Texas story, I'll tell you that, and then we'll close out. I was visiting a friend there when we were in college. We were there and we were in Austin. So it was like, the crazy, weird hippie part of Texas, right? So it felt kind of fun. We're cruising around, wake up late because we'd been out late the night before, and we went in to go get breakfast. And we walk in, we saw they were not serving breakfast starting at 11. And it was like 10:58.
Yeah.
And so we walk in. I'm like, hey, you still serving breakfast? And the guy says, yeah, you packing heat? No, I'm from California. Right. I'm like, what? He's like, you packing heat? I'm like, can you be more? What do you mean? He's like, are you carrying a gun? And I'm like, no. He said, well, we're not serving breakfast. Welcome to Texas, kid.
He responded to that very well. Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. He must have clearly he's used this before. That's his opening line. I thought it was as a California kid who's 21 sitting in Texas for the first time. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, we'll go somewhere else then. No problem, sir.
That's awesome. That's a great story. I haven't heard that one. I've been here a long time.
Yep, there you go. That was pretty amusing. Keep Austin weird.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very much so.
All right, man. You've called me sir more than anyone's ever called me sir in my entire life. I really appreciate it. You're very polite. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Take care.
All right. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, bud.